back, everybody, to the Rogues in the House podcast, your one-stop shop for everything swords and sorcery and adjacent. Today, I am joined by some excellent guests, and I'm very excited to talk with them, as well as our co-hosts. Well, no. Oh my gosh, here we go. What do I call you, Matt? Are we co-hosts?
No, I'm a co-host, man. Yes, you and I are on equal footing as far as hosts of this show, my friend.
Jonathan Olfert, an author, writer, sword and sorcery, stone and sorcery extraordinaire, and Graham Wilcox of Old Moon Publishing, best known for their excellent dark fantasy swords and sorcery magazine, Old Moon Quarterly. Today we are talking about, well, some new stuff that Old Moon's got cooking up. Thinking about stone and sorcery today with Seers in a Broken Season, a new novella by John Olfert, and that's being published by Old Moon Publishing, hence why we're all here in the same room talking about it. How you doing, fellas?
Little confused. I thought you said you had excellent guests lined up. When do we see them?
Oh, they're coming. They're on the way.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Hell yeah, dudes. I just want to say I am super pumped. Like, John, I know I've met you and spoken with you, but you've not been on the show before, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
I'm only asking that because my memory is so dodgy.
Me in Book of Blades 3. That was
yeah.
Actually, with a story that takes place in the same world as this novella. Don't know if you know.
Yeah.
You knew that. But.
Hell yeah. I see. We're going to segue, but in the future. Graham, I know I've been on a stream with you before, probably for New Age Sword and Sorcery or something, but you've not been on Rogues either. And, we've mentioned your publication many times on the show. Super dig what you do. So just the two of you, I'm really pleased to have you here. I actually didn't know Graham was going to be here. I knew we had John on tap, and then so pleasant surprise, dudes. I'm super pleased to have you on Rogues. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Super happy to be here. Very fond of the stuff that you and Logan have been doing with the podcast and doing with the with your short fiction as well.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, I know you just had the Cormac McArt story from Heroic Signatures release. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, super pumped. People are giving me tons of awesome feedback, and I feel like I didn't fuck it up. So, hell yeah, that's the best. Sometimes the best you can hope for when you, do these kind of projects.
I was able to grab it with my Kindle points, and then I realized I don't have a Kindle anymore. So I bought it on Kobo because I didn't pay for it anyway, and got it on my Kobo loaded up. So that'll be some nice reading here soon.
Heck yeah, John, are you nodding because Kobo is often a Canada-friendly thing? Is that?
No, I'm nodding because I liked the story.
Thank you.
I riffed on it a bit, and I think the New Age Sword and Sorcery Discord, I was like, I really like the kind of the anti-toxic masculinity of it all. It's like, you, my brother, you are fucking awesome at that. Yes, I am, brother. You are fucking awesome at that. Yes, I am. But we are getting old. Yes, we are. But you are still awesome. Yes, you are. And it's kind of that back and forth, but with axes. It was fun.
Man, I can't deny what you're saying. That's where I think a little of the writer's attitude gets into the work, man. I just it's always good having a good time with the bros, having fun, camaraderie, and all that. So, yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that. Anyways, I had no one. This is not even the Bazaar of the Bazaar, guys. We are talking about you dudes and how psyched I am that you're here. So, hell yeah. You know what? Let's why don't we move to the Bazaar, and then these guys can briefly interrupt them or explain who they are and what has brought them to sword and sorcery while they examine the exotic wares.
Right now, I am reading Grave's Daughters by S.E. Lindbergh, which is his upcoming book in the Dyscrasia fiction series. So far, quite good. I really like. So I'm not much of a horror guy, and then reading Seth's stuff is like, I have to like horror now, and I do. It's crazy and kind of gross sometimes, but then it's mixed in with this almost like pottery element where in order to forge his golem daughters, he assembles them out of clay in this like bug-filled mega cavern, and then throws them into a kiln, which is probably just like the molten core of the earth. It's absolutely insane, and it's going to be a fun release coming up here soon.
So, like, of course, you'd have to bring up something that I have a lot to say about, because I'm trying to actually be quiet here for a second. But Seth's a great dude, and he's a guy I see often when I go to Gen Con, and he writes sort of bug horror fiction a little bit. Like, dude is obsessed with body horror, I would say. Seth is. And having met the guy and, you know, just him being such a nice, yeah, he's a great, pure soul. Love that dude. And it's just amazing what pours out of him, right?
We were talking at breakfast at Gen Con, and we were talking about a story that I won't comment on further. And I had said to him, it's a good story, but that bug stuff freaks me out, man. And he says, me too. That's why I write it. And,
yeah,
and, you know, I feel that.
Yeah, write what you're afraid of is a, you know, something I've heard thrown around.
I think I've only read bits and pieces of his Dysgrasia stuff. But I do remember seeing this really, really nicely done map for one of his Dysgrasia stories. And it was kind of what's the word again, Graham? We were just talking about that, you know, the map that's very like in character.
Diegetic.
Diegetic, there we go. Yeah. No, it was really, really
good
nicely
word.
done. Yeah, it seemed like a cool setting that he built.
Yeah, definitely. So, John, what are you excited about in the world of swords and sorcery?
Oh, geez, I've honestly got a lot to catch up on.
Me too, dude.
Well. Yeah, no, honestly, anything I would name is something you all read 2 years ago. Like, I am definitely behind the curve. I am keeping my eye on what they're doing with the Heroic Signatures line. That's always fun. I have been backing all kinds of random little Kickstarters and backer kits in and around the field, and I'm sure things will show up in due course, and then I'll have lots to say about those. I did find that the library will allow me to borrow 3 comic books per month, and so in the first week of every month, I will sit down and I'll read like the new issue of Conan the Barbarian, or I'll pick up like one of the like Elric of Manilmane graphic novels and have some fun with that. And there's some gorgeous.
They have those in like Halifax, Dartmouth libraries?
In Hoopla, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's great. I only found out.
Dude, Hoopla.
I wish I'd known years ago.
Yeah, total life hack for anybody who wants to like get stuff for free without pirating. Hoopla library card, free streaming and ebooks and audiobooks. Like it's magic. Same thing with Overdrive to a lesser extent. Libby, I think is what it's called on the phone. So support your local library. Get a library card.
That's actually where I read your Conan Flash piece, Matt, on the library Hoopla. Yeah.
Very cool. Then I definitely approve of this platform.
Graham, what are you reading or enjoying lately in the realm that we're in?
In the realm of sword and sorcery, let's see.
Or adjacent, Graham. Or adjacent.
Or adjacent. Well, yeah. I mean, no, I've not read it yet, but I'm very excited. John Langan, the horror and also sword and sorcery author. He's published a few sword and sorcery stories with Old Moon, and I think also a few others. One in Sword v Cthulhu, edited by Jesse Bullington and Molly Panzer. John Langan, he is publishing a Conan novel, I think, later, I think next year. I'm looking forward to that one. That's a little bit ways off. In terms of more recent stuff, I've been reading what's more recent to me. It's older. It's from I think the 60s or 70s. It is Ursus of Ultima Thule by Avram David. Exactly, and the cover is exactly what you would hope it would be. It's Ursus of Ultima Thule by Avram Davison. it was recommended by somebody on one of the Discords, a bill of some sort. I don't know if he would want me to say his last name on the
Bill,
interweb.
yeah, I know what you're saying. There's a few.
But anyways, he recommended this. It is super cool. It is a, kind of like a Stone Age, maybe Iron Age might be the better term, Bronze Age. It's Bronze Age, I think. Bronze Age setting. Hero is a member of a sort of Bronze Age-ish group of tribes people. Incredible prose so far. Very different. Kind of goes almost for like a saga-esque feel with some kennings and doubled, like, hyphenated adjectives. Very interesting stuff. The people that this person is the tribes people who are sort of the protagonists are currently involved in a war against wild horses because they killed one of the horses' mayors, and now the horses are trampling all their crops. And the menfolk are trying to figure out what to do about that. And it is the main character at this point is like a child, and is just it has this sort of wry tone to it that I don't always love, but in this case, you can see it's very much like this child trying to figure out why do the adults do things, and also why does everyone that I live with dislike me. It's an interesting story. I like the prose. Usually what attracts me to a work is the quality of the prose. So I am enjoying that one so far. I'm trying to think if there are any other works that have been released recently that we wouldn't all just know about already. I think I might be in the same boat as John, where a lot of the stuff that I could talk about we've already read, or it would just be me shilling for my own magazine. In some sense, it would just be me saying that.
Plenty of opportunity.
Yeah,
exactly.
you'll have to do that at the end. We make you, so.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I look forward to. I guess the only other thing, and this might cross into like shilling other people's magazines, but I'm very excited to read the stories in Mordschlag that James Mill is currently doing on Packer Kit. The name is really awesome. Love the name.
Oh man,
I've seen the artwork that you guys have shown on there, that cover art and the layout. It looks really cool. I'm really looking forward to it. It seems like it'll be a really awesome addition to the bevy of really cool magazines we have floating around the sword and sorcery world these days.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And that's a good opportunity. Before I ask Matt about his bizarre pick, I just want to let people know, because part of why we're doing this is because we're running our backer kits at the same time. And if you happen to back Seers in a Broken Season and Mordschlag magazine at the same time, you get a special zine that is themed around both Mordschlag and Old Moon stuff, with a John story and a James story slapped in there upside down so you can flip it around. So I'll put some cover art somewhere. It's pretty cool. I read John's and it's excellent, and I'm honored to be beside that in some way for hardcore fans of our genre.
Man, that's some listen. John nor Graham are main hosts of this show, so I can tell you that, like, that's a pair of heavy hitters right there as far as literary sword and sorcery and shit goes. You want to talk about strong prose? Sorry, dudes, I'm putting a little praise on you, but like, both strong fucking writers. So
well,
hell
thanks.
yeah.
And I don't think
Thank you.
I don't think I can let this pass without name dropping Graham's novella. Contra Amateurs Mundi is it's great fun. It's like, how do I put this? It's like Matt Holder's Hurled Headlong Flaming, but slightly less psychedelic and slightly more into nuns.
Dope.
It is a little bit more into nuns. This is for true.
I think where I backed Seers, I'm going to be getting a copy of that as well. And that was one of the first things I saw of Old Moon, because I saw your covers on Amazon, I don't know, 2 years ago is when I started seeing them, and like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And then I saw that cover and I was like, that intrigues me. I'm very interested.
I'm glad the cover of Contra Amateurs Mundi.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and just the
excellent.
title, the vibe of it, it was one of those things that just was like, man, this is an artist who made this. Like I'm excited.
No,
I'm
for
glad.
sure.
I'm glad. I made the cover by putting a filter over a public domain piece of medieval art.
Nice.
And yep,
This is the true way. This is
and
the true way.
that is the extent of my photo editing skills. I'm glad that the cover was attractive. Oh, I did want to say I knew there was one piece of recent Sword and Sorcery I read that I thought was pretty cool that I hadn't mentioned, and it was what was it? Dark Sea Silver. It's a novelette by Audrey Stallings. So New Edge, I think, published this as part of one of their like most recent crowdfunders. It's available on their website. I thought, speaking of prose, I thought the prose was really cool. Had kind of like a faux medieval feeling to the narration, but then the characters speak, the characters who are in the story, depending on like who they are. Some of them speak in a more like antiquated tone, others speak more modern. If you
Interesting.
like, yeah, it felt a lot like almost like Nif the Lean plus Kane, like Carl Edward Wagner's Kane stories. Follows like the crew of this immortal pirate queen and her rampagings and so on and so forth. I think it's only like $4. I might be wrong. It's $4 exactly. I was completely
Was
correct.
this one of the novellas they did? What's it called?
It's called Dark Sea Silver. It was like I think it was like a novelette zine that they published with their most recent like crowdfunding campaign. It's like a stretch goal, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so it wasn't
yeah.
like in the magazine or a separate.
No,
Okay.
no, I didn't get it as part of the crowdfunder. But I saw Nathan Long, who's a really cool author as well. He published a whole bevy of Warhammer novels and Gotrek and Felix novels. He wrote the Fafhrd and Grey Mouser continuations that were in the
For
Tales from
Tales.
Magician's Skull. Yeah.
Oh,
He wrote a review of Dark Sea Silver and of the other novellas that New Edge put out, and I thought it was, and his review kind of convinced me to buy it, and I read it in like a couple hours. It was really good.
Cool. Like that one completely missed my radar. So
yeah,
that sounds worth seeking out for me for sure.
I didn't know anything about the book, but I did see the cover art at one point. It was pretty friggin' cool. It's like a slightly Aztec inflected giant woman in a boat. Like a warband boat about to launch kind of thing. And yeah, no, it was really, really sweet.
Yeah, it's got like that like black and white kind of like old school D&D artwork look to it. I really like that. So definitely a win all around.
The Hidden Shrine of Temocan or one of those. Oh man.
Oh man, you just brought me back.
Yeah, yeah, I know. There's something special about that. Like, oh my God. Okay, so let's get to the point of this show. So I will briefly say what I have been checking out, which is tons of stuff, video games, etc. But I actually have been reading a Sword and Sorcery novel. I'm almost through it too. It's Sometime Lofty Tower by David C. Smith. I read one of his Bran McMorn novels. I think it was For the Witch of the Mists. And that's really all I had read from him. And people kept telling me, dude, you should read David C. Smith. Sometime Lofty Towers. It's up your alley. You'll dig it. And sure enough, yes, it's very up my alley. I think it's a really good example of, now, people are going to sneer at this and put up their nose, but like elevated sword and sorcery. Okay. I don't even like that description necessarily for horror, elevated horror, this and that. I'm a big horror nut. At the same time, you say it and I do know what you mean. And it's that this is a story that's about some very big universal themes. It's highly relatable, perhaps as a middle-aged dude. And I don't know. I really, really, really dig it. And I've been blasting through it on sunny days on the deck. And it's kind of it's a pretty dark novel. It's not very funny, but it's absolutely lived in. And I don't know, man, like a good book regardless of genre. And yeah, high recommends for that one. I'm digging it. I got about 50 pages left. It's not a long book, but goddamn, it's hitting.
I would agree with that. I read it a few years ago, on its first printing, and like, wow, like I've heard it compared to like Unforgiven or like decolonial, anti-colonial dances with
Yeah, a
wolves.
little Last of the Mohicans in there.
Right. Like the anti-colonialism of it is, I felt like, pretty explicit. It's
100%.
very deconstructed. While still being under the hood, really a Western in an intentional kind of way, which is a mode I really enjoy and one that I work with a lot in my writing.
Which is, I mean, it just really lends to the argument that Sword and Sorcery is kind of just Westerns with the pistols and put a little weird in there. And there you go. Those are some of the main ingredients of this genre. Anyways, we all know that, dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of segue, the other thing that I read recently was, so I knew John was going to be on the show, and I wanted to reread one of his Mammoth, his whatever Stone Age stories, and I could not find them in my books. Are very buried. I've got them in a series of bags. I could not get to it, so I wanted to reread one of those. But then I remembered he had done a piece for New Edge Sword and Sorcery issue. What is this? Is this issue 2? And it was actually neurodivergence in Sword and Sorcery. A little essay he wrote, which, to be honest with you, I would have loved to see you expand on that and blow that up completely. It looks like, it brought up a lot of interesting points that I would love to see explored further, like maybe even academically or like beyond. So that's a whole other thing. But I dug the essay, and I wanted to read something from you recently, and so I read that, and I don't know. Yeah, it spoke to me. There was a few sound bites I'd read out, but I'm not gonna zero in and call you out right now. This is my way of saying, hey, John Olfert is here, and I read an essay of his, and he's also currently selling a book with Graham Wilcox from Old Moon, and they're on the show right now. So, guys, tell me what this is.
So we're currently running a crowdfunding campaign for Seers in a Broken Season, which is a Stone and Sorcery novella, about 32,000 words long. It chronicles the adventures, or at least an adventure, of Walks Like a Rock Slide, the mammoth hero that John created, first appearing, I believe, in Old Moon Quarterly number 5 in Together Under the Wing. Walks Like the Rock Slide is a member of the Blue Ochre people, which are a clan of mammoths at the beginning of a new ice age, if I'm not mistaken, which is the period of time in which Seers takes place. Walks himself is perhaps somebody with a little more than a bit of the Western anti-hero, or at least Western hero, in him. He is a wanderer, goes from place to place, gets involved in the conflicts of the people who are living in those places. He's a bit gruff. He can be a bit grumpy. He has a tendency to meet problems tusk first, but then he does end up thinking about them and feeling them as well, and struggles both with his own impulses and with what he feels like are the ideas and sort of ideology and expectations placed on him by his predecessors in the mammoth world, in particular his formidable grandmother, a matriarch and shamaness of the Blue Ochre people. So Seers walks at his best. He is alone, at least at the beginning of the novella. He encounters some people who are interrupting or harming somebody he feels kinship with, who's not a mammoth, but he still feels kinship with this person. And events explode from there as he gets involved in a tale of revenge, counter-revenge, and so on. So that's how I see the novella, at least. I spent a long time working on this with John. We have a really beautiful cover art, pan painted in oil by Brian LeBlanc. He does some other really beautiful cover art. He recently redid, and this is going to be me doing more shilling, for which I apologize, but not really, because I think this collection is really good. Brian LeBlanc recently did the cover art for a reissue of John R. Foltz's amazing Sword and Sorcery short story collection, Worlds Beyond Worlds, which has one of my favorite contemporary Sword and Sorcery short stories in it, called Shivane.
Shivane!
A story. I know the
will
story.
rescue us. Great story. Great story.
An excellent story of a knight raised from the realms of death to save his people one last time. One of my favorite contemporary short stories, pretty quick. Apparently, according to this is what John himself told me, wrote it in one take, didn't edit it or revise it. I'm very jealous of it. So jealous, I'm tempted to rip the pages out of the book and eat them out of sheer envy, because I've never written a single thing in one take that was any good or publishable in any way. But anyway, so Brian LeBlanc did the art for Worlds Beyond Worlds. You guys should check that out. He's also doing the art for Seers and Broken Season, at least the cover art. You guys should check that out too.
I just wanted to say I love how you promote your people, man. That's a good editor.
Yeah, you didn't publish the Worlds Beyond Worlds re-release, right?
No, I think
No,
John,
that's what I'm saying.
John self-publishes all his stuff now, I think.
Yeah, you're just shouting out to somebody else. You're like, I don't want to shill. Well, bro, you're calling out what's good. That's a good thing.
It's what Shivane would do.
One would hope, if he was invested in a capitalist system, one would hope Shivane would fight with both sword and marketing.
WWC. Yeah. Okay, so the cover art is honestly a pretty decent segue for me. I don't know if y'all have seen it. Graham's posted snippets of it. I've posted one or two as well. So it's this scene of woolly mammoth facing off with his grandmother's bloody skinned ghost in a tropical setting that's been frozen over. Like there's birds frozen whole into the ground. There's icicles dangling off palm trees. It's one of my weird Ice Age stories, and I've got a few. And it's part of this broader setting that I've started calling, because I've been looking for a name for it for years. But I've started calling them my Broken Season stories. Just based on the book and on kind of the uniting themes. So far published or like agreed to be published. It's 12 short stories, this novella plus a novelette in Beneath Ceaseless Skies, and they all share one world, but it's a different parts of the world, different cast of characters. So this makes 3 stories with Walks Like a Rock Slide, the woolly mammoth, and Blue Ochre people show up and some other stuff as well. Then there's a couple stories with my bandit Twist Finger, and this and that. They're all listed and linked on my website. Most of them are free to read. They're all out there. Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with this book. Y'all mentioned kind of the Western angle and the, I guess, kind of lone gunslinger anti-hero kind of made. And yeah, like Walks Like a Rock Slide is a woolly mammoth who has absolutely no compunction about stomping people flat if he feels like it.
So let me ask you about that. So you're writing from the POV of a woolly mammoth,
right? Or
third person, but limited, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so what I'm interested as a fellow author, what are your rules or your things that you put down where you're like, all right, I have to connect the reader to the woolly mammoth and it being human-like, but what do you do to ensure that we're constantly reminded this is a woolly mammoth, it has anthropomorphic qualities, but I'm just really curious, picking your writer's brain of what you do when you go to write something like that, because you gotta set some things down, right?
Well, okay, yeah. So pachyderm sapience and cognition, all that has interested me for a long time. And their communication is, very in depth, very emotionally rich, and it's more than just, vocalizations. And so I had to work with that side of things and with the language barrier, frankly. But also, like, for most people, most animals are it. And throughout the entire book, there are many human characters of, different genders, ages, and so forth. I never use a single pronoun for them other than it, because that is how the mammoth sees them. I also had to take a look at how the sensory experience would be different. There is kind of a disability undertone, and I wrote some of this while thinking back to, like recuperation from a back injury and so forth. So walks like a rock slide. He's missing an eye. Elephants and mammoths, by extension, my guess is, don't have as good eyesight as humans, is my understanding. But his sense of smell is very good. His sense of hearing is very good, and so his world tends to be small in terms of like everything beyond a certain radius is pretty blurry. It's smears of color kind of thing. So he's squinting a lot, and there's some stuff I won't necessarily spoil, but like he gets the opportunity to, transcend some of this, but it's got a lot of strings attached. So I definitely got to play with the idea of assistive devices and assistive technology and like disability ethics and so forth between various characters, but in a very like Neolithic kind of sense. It was, yeah. So those are probably the main things that I took into consideration when trying to write a mammoth.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah, but between both of your guys' pitches and descriptions, I mean, I was already sold, but now I'm like really sold. I'm super excited to pick this one up.
Thanks.
Excellent.
I will say the other thing I did is I made sure not to read Ray Naylor's The Tusks of Extinction until after I had finished writing this book.
Interesting.
Yeah, I get that.
What is that book about? The Tusks of
the Tusks of
Extinction?
Extinction is, how do I put this? It's like human consciousness reincarnated by technology into a mammoth body to rewild mammoths into Siberia. It's a really, really cool novella.
Very interesting. Who wrote it?
His name's Ray Naylor. I'm remembering it right. Yeah, good little book.
All right, I'll look it up.
So, when it comes to the mammoth protagonist, I feel like, at least from my perspective, there is a little bit of an elephant thing going on in Sword and Sorcery beneath the surface, because ever since, I think it starts with Howard's Tower of the Elephant. Do y'all think that maybe that elephants are like secretly something that Sword and Sorcery authors just love beyond any other animal?
I think there might be something to that. I think I could start to posit that there might be like a feeling of exoticism or even like Orientalism over the idea like elephants aren't, a lot of times the characters are kind of like European or like European stand-ins like Conan, and elephants aren't really native to Europe, at least not when these characters are walking around. And so they go to a place where there are elephants, and that's kind of one of like the signs and symbols that shows you are now in this sort of mysterious, more eastern or southeastern place. I also think it might just be elephants are really big and cool, and they look awesome. And they're also, we know that they're smart, and it can play a role. And I think they're also sympathetic because of that they're smart. And so I think that's part of like why we get behind, at least part of why I get behind Conan's choices vis-a-vis Yankosha in Tower of the Elephant, because I might already be primed to go elephant creature. That seems it seems sad. There's also a feeling of like the feeling you might get when seeing an elephant in a zoo or something. You see Yankosha trapped here. And you get that sense of like, it is just to give this person or this entity a new lease on life. There was, in terms of sword and sorcery and elephants, I know Beneath Ceaseless Skies, who have published John Olfert several times, or many times now by this point. They published a story a while back by Seth Dickinson, who wrote the Trader Baru Cormorant series, which I think is more like political fantasy. And he also, I think, wrote for the video game Destiny 2, which my older brother loves.
My younger brother loves it.
Excellent. Well, there you go. Brothers and Destiny 2, who would have thought? But Seth Dickinson wrote a short story, or I think maybe a novelette, for Beneath Ceaseless Skies that was human characters who are enslaved by giant sapient elephants, and the elephants kind of like force them to engage in like gladiatorial combat. And it was a very interesting story, very different view of like sort of the pachyderm, Walks Like a Rock Slide is something the protagonist of his stories. These elephantine creatures, and Liang Kosha was kind of a sympathetic character in his story. These evil elephant gladiatorial overlords were antagonists through and through. But I remember reading that, I think probably when I was in college. Super cool. Made me want to read other stuff by Seth Dickinson, and also made me think that, like, yeah, elephants are sword and sorcery in some way.
So I gotta, just that whole thing put a question in my mind that like maybe someone has already answered, especially in all of the depth of Howard scholardom. Do you think, like, how much did Howard know about the nature of an elephant, right? Like, was it something he saw pictures of? Was it known before that elephants were considered, I mean, maybe they were considered wise, but did they know like that their memories were intense and like super smart creatures? Like, what was the actual historical knowledge at the time, and what would Howard have even seen? Is just a question I'll throw out into the ether of Howard scholars who might be listening to this show. Let me know what you think of that. It's a good question.
Yeah. They're an inspiring creature too, aren't they? Because I mean, just from an action story perspective, they literally have blades thrusting out of their face. I mean, they're just such a heavy metal.
They're like they're like a creature in Doom, but they're a real thing.
That is probably that's the main thing that I forgot to mention in terms of the challenge of writing a pachyderm is how the hell do you create stakes for something that size?
Perhaps literal ones is what you would use.
Yeah. So like in the first story, he's fighting a giant and like whole bands of humans. In the second story, he's fighting a cannibal mammoth. In the novella, he goes up against at various points, like, the big Polynesian ship in Moana? Imagine that covered in spikes. It's like Neolithic whalers kind of thing.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Fights that. He fights a megalodon. Like there's other mammoths. There's like massive environmental factors too. So like, here's the ice that has swallowed the world. Here are these giant stone pinnacles. And all of them in some ways is opposition. So I had to really scale up the opposition to have there be like the physical side of the stakes, right?
Yeah.
In the time period too, you have, I mean, everything is bigger, right? So it's almost like the perspective, maybe, I'm just guessing. I mean, it would be, where am I going with this?
Like Mario level
it's just
4,
a bigger
big world?
scaled.
You're saying? You're saying level 4.
Well, you're a big creature in a big world and big enemies. I mean, it's like I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just fascinated.
It's like that sequence in King Kong, or even more so in Peter Jackson's King Kong, where there's just all this cool big shit that they have to contend with, and everything's big and intense. Is that what you're saying? Like on that level?
Yeah, because like in the prehistoric time, like with dinosaurs and all that, I don't know. I don't have the terminology
like
in my head, but I mean, like
megafauna?
those creatures are just megafauna. They're just bigger than we are, than we're used to experiencing.
Yeah.
And so that just, it's a new way to kind of,
a new lens
look
to see
at adventure, right?
any story you're reading. You're just, it makes it all a bigger quality. And I remember that was the vibe I sort of got back when I did read John's story in Old Moon, it was just, there was an immensity to things. And yeah, I guess that's kind of what I was getting at too when I was asking, like, what are some of your rules? How do you get in the mindset? Because, I can step into one of my characters, like a Maxis or a Lochmanon, and sort of get on that level because they're both me in ways, but not in the worst ways that they are. But that, I'm imagining trying to embody that mammoth. And I don't know, man. If you had only ever done that as a writing exercise, it would have been amazing, even just to do. And the fact that you're just committed to telling these stories and getting to that headspace, it's so fucking metal and it's so sword and sorcery that it's, I don't know, it's just good to have.
John, are you a Magic the Gathering player or have been at any point in your life?
Closest I ever came was, I'm 11 years old. My friend's older brother has a massive deck, and I'm sitting there looking at the art and the flavor text at the bottom and just flipping through for a couple hours and just going, this is the coolest thing in the world. But no, I've never played. It's not for me.
For sure. No, I cannot blame you there. It is a financial burden, that game, that I had to let go several years ago. But the green section of the game, a lot of it is focused on like megafauna. There's a card I'm thinking of. It's like colossal footfalls, and you play big creatures and get benefits for it. So like that, I guess that's kind of the feeling that I'm thinking of. It's just like we're playing the fantasy book, but just making it huge. And so that's awesome.
Which begs the question. It's like, then I'm starting to think of other sword and sorcery authors, and I'm like, okay, well, what deck would you be? Okay, like, who would be the blue? Who would be the black? The black might be Graham's more like the black like white deck, and then it's this medieval-y thing. I mean, I don't know, like who's red?
Black, white,
who's direct
knights.
Damage? Sorry,
That's
I
gotta be
actually
Conan.
literally played Magic on the weekend for the first time in a very long time, and so yeah, that you prompted me hard on that one.
I smelled the cardboard on
Yeah,
you.
you did. You've been doing this all night. You're like, let's bring up stuff that Matt won't be able to stop himself from talking about and interrupt the entire show. Anyways,
Maybe we're just vibing, man.
I think we are vibing. I just am concerned about the people who are watching.
Graham, I got a
His
question
mask
for you.
falls off completely.
I don't think
You
I've
have a
ever
question
asked
for
you.
me. Well, go ahead.
So me writing this book was actually your idea.
Hmm?
I'm not asking for you to blow smoke up my ass or whatever, but like, what made you think this is what the world needs? This is what we want to spend the next year doing. Like, what was your actual thought process or your team's thought process behind this? I've never asked.
Well, I think part of it was our publisher in real life is my best friend Julian, who is been my best friend for many years in my wedding. He started Old Moon because he wanted to get another venue for the kind of stories that he wanted to read out in the world, and we just wanted to see what would happen and how far we could take it. And he loves your stories. I think when he read your story in Old Moon 5, I think it was one of the first times I've seen him just so excited and like surprised by his story, by how much he liked it and how intensely he enjoyed it. And obviously, I mean, I agreed. And so I think we got your story for issue 8 as well. And we were just thinking about, like, we knew we wanted to do more novellas. We knew we wanted to do longer works, and we knew we wanted something that hit a few different qualities. Quality number 1 has to be super metal. Has to really be something that will get people thinking this is cool. Gives you that kind of like goosebumps feeling you might get when you're younger and you're seeing, like, Doom guy doing something cool in Doom 3 or Doom 64 or whatever, or when you see, like, I don't know, the trailer to the original Dawn of War, you're like, yeah, Space Marines are cool. I do want to die for the God Emperor. That's not problematic. But that kind of feeling. So we wanted that. It has to be metal. 2, we wanted something that had a little bit of that had emotional complexity and emotional depth to it. And I think one thing that struck me in both of your stories, it struck both of us and struck my wife as well, Caitlin, who's also an editor for Old Moon, was the emotional depth that Walks Like a Rock Slide conveys. He is enacting vengeance, or he is fighting with somebody, but it's never just, a fight scene for a fight scene's sake. It's never just vengeance for vengeance sake. There is always some kind of deeper character moment that he's going through. And yes, he is a giant sapient pachyderm, which is a very fantastical, kind of like almost high fantasy concept in a way. But the way he thinks about it and the way that he processes these issues, I feel like lend themselves to I sometimes hesitate to use the term universal when talking about humans, because we can be so very different and so on and so forth. But I think the issues that he grapples with, to me, feel like issues that feel like they resonate beyond just, oh, that was cool. The feeling of like, oh, I have this pressure from my family or from the legacy of my family, my grandmother on me. I have the weight of my society on me. There are people that I know, right? In issue 8 of Old Moon, when you have the story where he faces a cannibal mammoth, he's fighting somebody who has transgressed against norms of human society, obviously, and the norms of his own mammoth society in a way that's very recognizable to humans. He's fighting this person, but he's not just trying to kill him, and he's not even just trying to straight, like, redeem him. He's trying to, in some way, teach this person to be better, trying to claw him back from the kind of animal he's made himself into in order to survive, and make himself back into a sapient human being. And I say human being because it feels like a very human moment. And I think there's something that appeals to me about that. There's complexity to that. The idea of having somebody who you might love or you might care for whatever reason, who you feel like maybe has gone off the deep end in some way. Maybe they're not a cannibal, but maybe they might have other things that you find like, I don't agree with that, or that is harmful to them or to others. And that process of having to get them back, I think is a theme that I thought was really cool. And so metal, those emotionally complex and well done themes. And the third part was that I really just liked the voice that you gave Walks Like a Rock Slide. I mentioned earlier, prose is one of the number one things that attracts me to a work. Prose, character, and voice, the top 3 things for me. Plot, I understand people love it a lot. I could read something that has very little plot, but has a really cool character and really cool prose and really cool voice. I could read that for a long time. Now, very thankfully, John is quite good at plot. Had a lot of practice over the years. You've had, from what I understand, you've written many stories, and I think, if I recall correctly, you would have a competition with yourself to see how many rejections you get in a year, to see how much you could write and how well you could hone your craft, which I think is extremely admirable. But I knew that the voice that you gave Walks Like a Rock Slide was something I thought was really cool. And so I want to see more of that. And I know that it can be really, really difficult to get longer works that are a little bit off kilter published. And I figured that, and when I say I mean Julie, Caitlin, and I as well, we figured that if we didn't ask for this longer work, if we didn't like give it a venue, it might not exist. And we started a magazine so that we could so that things that might not exist would exist. Stories that might not find a place would find a place. And so that's kind of how it all came together. And we've gotten a bunch of stories. I know I've had several people email me after we accepted their story, like, oh, this got rejected 20, 30, 40 times. And I was just happy we could find it a place. I know, I mean, I don't know what your plans would be. Maybe you would have written this without us asking you to, but I'm really glad that I approached you and said, "Hey, John, would you like to write this for us? I think it'd be really cool." And I'm really glad that you were able to write it for us. I feel very lucky to be able to get this out into the world.
Well, thank you. I mean, I gotta, sorry guys, I gotta jump on that real quick, because the obvious question I have at this point is, the experiment is a success. It's 180% funded. It's with 3 weeks left. It's going great. So what's next? What other longer form stuff is the Old Moon team interested in creating next, in enabling next, that wouldn't otherwise exist? That's like the burning question I've got.
Certainly. So I know we're working with, I don't know how much I can say, because I never want to give promises about things, because I know that I don't do this full-time professionally at the moment. I have a day job teaching and doing other stuff. So our timelines are often dictated by stuff that is kind of outside the realms of my control to some extent. But we are working on currently a novella with another author, another sword and sorcery author who we really enjoy working with and we've worked with before. So we're currently working with a sword and sorcery novella. We're working on republishing. Actually, it's not. It's at what point does something stop being a novella and become a short novel? So I'm working with a manuscript right now. It's about 50,000 words, dark fantasy, kind of psychedelic medieval European setting. Best I can describe it is like a Sam Raimi movie, but it also is like a Sam Raimi movie that hooked up with a Robert Eggers movie. I think it's probably the best way of describing it. I'm sure there would probably be more literary ways to describe that are referencing things that aren't films, but I think the author would appreciate that. So we're working on that. We're working on the re-release of another sword and sorcery novella that was published a little while back by a different publisher. So we're going to be working on that. We're just working on the art for it at the moment, and then we'll have that re-released. That one won't really have it won't have a backer kit campaign, but we're going to re-release it and do all sorts of marketing for that as well. And then I think next year we're going to have some new issues of Old Moon that we're going to be crowdfunding and having submission windows for. And my hope is we can have some other at least one more novella in the next year that we are releasing. Now, what that is at the moment, I think it's a little bit too in the opening stages to say, but I think suffice to say, it'll be metal and it'll have a lot of voice. I think is the goal. But yeah, so the one that will come out probably most recently will be the re-release of another sword and sorcery novella from a different publisher. And then after that, the short novel, I think it's like 50,000 words. Sam Raimi meets Robert Eggers, and I think that's what we're doing thus far. I was hoping we'd have like an open window for novellas, but I think it might end up, we might only be able to do one open window with my work schedule, and Caitlin's work schedule. She also works full time. Julian is our publisher. He gives any money we don't get from the crowdfunding and from our sales elsewhere, Julian provides us. And he works a lot of hours. And so all this to say, constrained time frame, we can probably only do the one open submission window a year. So it's probably going to be for the magazine and not for novellas, at least this coming year. But thank you for the question, John. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that you seem excited for what we're bringing out.
What a rad dynamic you guys have there at Old Moon. It's like the three of you, and it keeps going, and you pay good, respectable pro rates, and you've got your thing really locked. I don't know, man. Kudos. Seriously.
Thanks.
I'm just super pumped that, I don't know. I've been at this thing for several years. I mean, in sword and sorcery land for like 15 years probably on social media.
Wasn't your first
just,
Maxis story like 2011, 2012, something like that?
No, I think it was later than that. Like I wrote some trash for just like pay you royalty pubs or whatever, right? Just to kind of get the confidence up. And then when you get accepted by a thing that really doesn't, it doesn't matter. But whatever roads lead you to keep trying and writing and honing your craft. So I don't know, like Maxis debuted in one of Jason Waltz's anthologies. What was it? Death's Sting. I think it was a Shakespeare quote or something. Anyways, it was a book of immortal characters. And so Maxis first, no, that's bullshit. Maxis first arrived in Weird Book. I'm sorry. Anyways, what I was saying is that like it's cool to see these people who've been mixing it up in sword and sorcery for a while still here mixing it up in sword and sorcery, and people come out and they're like, oh, it's a flood of sword and sorcery, or there's too much, and it's like, all right, but actually, guys, we've been saying there's been a lot of sword and sorcery for fucking years now, and there still is a lot. And like there's a lot of publications that are still doing great and doing their thing. And so I don't know. Yeah, this is just a mixture of dudes that I was happy to sit down with tonight. So that's awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming on to the Rogues in the House podcast, now in video.
Really happy to be here.
It was awesome to hear your guys' inside scoop of what was going on. So, so before we get going, where can we find you? What are the plugs? What are the things that you would like people to get their hands on?
For Old Moon, well, specifically for Seers in a Broken Season, if you go on to BackerKit and go to Seers in a Broken Season, you will find our BackerKit campaign. We have a whole bunch of pledge levels here. You can go for just the EPUB and PDF. You can go for just the physical copy, which includes the EPUB and PDF. We have a bundle that includes Seers in a Broken Season novella, the ebook copies of that, as well as the 2 issues of Old Moon that have the previous Walks Like a Rock Slide stories in there, and all that at, I believe, a reasonable discount. And of course, if you do back Seers in a Broken Season and you back James Mills magazines, The Arcanist and Mordschlag, together, you will get that very lovely flipzine that has a story by John Olfert and a story by James Mills. And so if you want to find more about Old Moon, you could always go to oldmoonpublishing.com as well. I will say, I believe right now, if you do want to buy anything by us, we do have all of our issues as add-ons on the BackerKit campaign for Seers in a Broken Season, and I think it's probably the cheapest way to get them. At the moment, we are, I think, about $20 away from all of our stretch goals. We'll have to come up with new ones. I have a few ideas. But when we reach that stretch goal, we will have 2 pieces of artwork by Simon Underwood, who did the very lovely black and white cover art for Old Moon 7. Those will be in the interior of Seers in a Broken Season. We'll also have a shipping discount for all international backers, so Canadians and international backers outside of the United States, when we have a map drawn by Castor Jones, who is the child of Howard Andrew Jones, and they did the maps for Howard Andrew Jones' Lord of a Shattered Land, a very, very awesome fix-up novel chronicling the adventures of Hannibal, the Hannibal-esque general in a late Iron Age setting.
Hashtag elephants and sword and sorcery. R.I.P. Howard Andrew Jones, baby.
Indeed.
Castor also did the maps for the other 2 Hanovar books, and they're just as great as the.
Oh, yes, they did. And I believe they did it. I believe they did the maps for a bunch of other stuff too. They're really good at it.
Yeah, good to see Castor doing sword and sorcery things in the footsteps of Howard Andrew Jones as well.
Doing their own writing projects too.
Nice.
Other angles on fantasy as well, but like really working to grow their skills from what I've seen, you know?
Yeah, man, it's good to see. Good to see.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Was that all your stuff, Graham? Did you get it out?
I think so. I think that's all. I think it's all my shilling.
Okay, good. You were apprehensive at first, and like that's the one of the biggest reasons this show just keeps going is I mean, I say it all the time, it's platforming. Not that it's like not offering you primetime television here, but yeah, it's a community space, I like to think. So, James, let's cut this promotional pie right down there. And then you jump in, and then we'll get John.
Sure. Yeah, so at the same time, a Series of a Broken Season is going on. The Arcanists Fantasy Magazines is running on BackerKit. That will be our first 2 issues of Mordschlag and our next 4 issues of Literary Fantasy Magazine. A very exciting thing we're very, very close to is at $12,500. We unlock a stretch goal where we are going to add a story by a previous Rogues in the House guest. Last week, we had M. Stern on the show. He happened to have a novelette kicking around that I read, and it rocked. So at 12.5, we unlock M. Stern in our first issue of Mordschlag. And the first issue is number 0. and not number 1, because everything I make has to be named confusingly in some way. Uh, but yeah, that's also a very cheap way to get any Arcanist stuff we've put out. We have magazines, we have books, not just limited to sword and sorcery, but a lot of dark fantasy type of stuff. If you're more interested in the literary fantasy side of things, there's some sorted out sections for you to take a look at that. And those books are the cheapest they really ever get on the Backer Kit campaign, available as add-ons.
John, this is Detective John Kimball. It's your turn. You have to get up there. And now it is, you got to tell us about all of the things that you're working on. And come on, do it.
Okay.
Kindergarten.
Well, first off, in case you hadn't heard, my first book is upcoming through Old Moon, and the crowdfund is currently at 180%. And I would suggest that you join 140 people who have pre-ordered my book, because you're going to like it. Honestly, most of my stuff is either free to read or in some way, like, I got paid once and I don't like get royalties and I'm fine. So I don't have anything to toss out. Oh, you know what? One of, I think, my best paleo fiction stories, and it takes place in the same world as this, just a different part of the same world. It's called Wreckwood, and it's in this little charity anthology to benefit Rainbow Railroad. So like LGBTQ relocation, basically. Lovely little anthology, great cover art. It's called Other and Different, and it's published by, if you know the magazine, A Coup of Owls. I submitted to one of their regular submission windows years ago, and they're like, we would like to toss this story in this little charity anthology. And I haven't been hot about it. Like, I didn't want to take up that kind of space, right? But I said yes, and it was really rewarding. And I'm very proud of the story, and the anthology is still in print, still available. Very affordable little piece. Really nice cover art. Other and Different. Yeah.
I mean, also, don't be afraid to you can sell a thing, and if you make some shillings, that's okay too.
Yeah.
I just wanted to remind you.
Trust me, when I have that, you'll know.
Yeah.
But no,
I'm surprised this is your first book, John.
I said that to you back at HalCon. Remember, I was like, you don't have anything. You don't have your own thing out, man, and you're prolific.
I learned a lot of lessons the hard way about my ability to write a coherent novel. So I have half a dozen of them that will never see the light of day, and that is good. But a lot of them, I still got a lot of value out of, in terms of not only what not to do, but in terms of realizing what I like writing, what I didn't like writing. And actually one of them, so I had a couple of draft novels. They were very, very personal, very overwrought, rewrote them a few times. They will never go anywhere. But I took a hard look at them 3 years ago, and I said, okay, what do I really love about, this opening scene that I love so much? I rewrote it 4 times. What do I really love about this scenario and that character? Is there a way to do that with a new world, knowing what I know now as a writer? And that's what became Ninoggin Says Remember, which was my big story in Lightspeed. That's what became the Churchlands stories, which have been far and away my most successful writing. The Churchlands and the Five Deserts, which is like a pair of interlocked side-by-side settings. And so I didn't cannibalize those old novels, but I really said, there are things I love and I'm not ready to give up about, these themes, these types of characters, these types of settings. Can I paint a new painting using what I love and take ownership of that and make something good out of it? And hey, it turns out you can make, some money doing that. So I was very, very happy with that. So one, hey, I'm shilling my stuff. Go read Ninoggin Says Remember and Crickets and Lost Light and Lightspeed. They're a couple of, I think, my most powerful and influential stories, and my Churchland setting is out there, and I'm very happy with it.
I think you said a lot there, but also I think if you file that under dubious writing advice, perhaps, but it's just a writer has to write, and it's doing the writing regardless of how you pluck from it later, or if you cannibalize, or if you just learn along the way. It's like, man, nothing is wasted.
Well, think of it like sketching, right? Like you think,
Exactly.
You think Da Vinci sat down and did a masterpiece, and that was the only time he ever drew that from that angle. No, like it's just it's iteration, it's learning, it's finding what you love about the thing and taking another stab at it, right? If you do want some dubious writing advice, I won't call it a formula, but I do have a method that kind of underscores pretty much everything I write that's any good. And I'll give it to you quick because I know we're out of time. But every major character needs basically 3 things. And if you've got 3 things, you've got like a robust character that you can work with for any given scenario. And the 3 things are they need to be thrown down a hole, and they need something to hate, and they need something to regret. And if you've got a pit, a hate, and a regret, you can do absolutely anything with a character.
No want. You don't have the want in there, which is
I don't care about what they want. I care about what they feel bad about, and what they don't like, and what's trying to eat them.
Yeah. No, you're causing me to think about that.
Hearing this method explains very much why we publish John so many times. That sounds exactly you've described. I think you've inadvertently described me the stories I most want to read. Excellent.
I'm working on another show with a friend of mine where we're like practically teaching each other how to write. I'm working on a novelette where we're trying to apply story grid methodology to the outlining, but then I also have your advice, John, that you wrote up in New Edge's Discord about like what you think Beneath Ceaseless Skies is looking for. And I'm also layering all of that into all this other stuff we're working on. So now I have 3 more things from John Olfert to put into that story.
Ignore me. Write what's in your heart. Write what's in your heart, James.
What's in my heart is learning from people who have done it well and have proven themselves through trial and error.
I honestly think that's among the most valuable advice. Is if you're thinking more specifically at trying to get a market rather than just the basic rules of storytelling or what you should or should not do, because those are the ones that are far more wishy-washy, as far as the fundamentals of storytelling, because you can take things in angles that one wouldn't expect and come out with genius. But the writing to market advice is big time. Like that's how that's how I think I found my real mojo, my confidence, was with my Tales from the Magician's Skull story. I was reading Howard Ender Jones's what he wanted to see in a sword and sorcery story, and it was very much in my wheelhouse of shit that I would write anyways. But I was just very deliberate when I wrote that story to just follow that skeleton while, with my own ideas that can fit into this genre. And goddamn, if it didn't work, right? Like
there's
writing to market is smart, especially if that's what your goal is at the time. And if you have that goal, you should fucking do it, because there's a confidence that comes from that as well, right? You seek out this market, you try to write to this form. I did the same thing with Old Moon as well. When I got a story in there, I did some feedback with Oliver at New Edge, just to not to be like, how do I change this to make it Old Moon friendly, but just like, I don't know, to sort of lean into an angle or something like that, because that's what you're shooting for at that moment. And then it ends up, it almost becomes its own writing prompt, right? And like a writing prompt is fucking precious to a writer. I don't know I've not had a lot of writing conversations where someone's thrown off by a prompt. It's like the same thing. It's an exercise. And anyways, all those opportunities are just, if you're an aspiring writer at all, take advantage of all of that stuff.
Yeah, I just the last thing on that's very interesting. It's just when you're targeting a market or an editor's taste, what you are taking a shortcut to is understanding who your target reader is, which is by making it hyper specific, you've created a very strong story by writing to one specific person.
Having a
case,
vision, whether that's your vision crafted on someone else's what they want for it, because there's no shame in that form of creating art. It's the same as if you're making a film and you need to impress a studio and you need to get millions and millions of dollars to make this fucking thing, right? So I don't know. I think those kind of prompts and shit are just do that.
The only thing I'd add is you got to approach it with sincerity, or it's transparent as hell. You know,
yes.
Like I've been published a lot by BCS, and I've written a lot on what I feel they've wanted out of my stories in particular, and like how I approach it. Like I never wrote a guide to writing for BCS. I wrote like, here is how a John Olfert story for BCS works.
Right.
But I also started submitting to them a decade before they published me. Right? Like I was sending them stories like juvenilia all through my like 20s, right? It was, and I got back some very interesting feedback along the way. But I was pretty sure that of the markets out there, it was closest to what I wanted to write in my heart and was worth being persistent about for a fucking decade. With some gaps in there or whatever. And I'm not saying go do what I did, but there's a lot of people who look down on writing to a specific market, but I think what they're thinking of is like, oh, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write an Apex story, a Lightspeed story, instead of like examining what you actually want to write, knowing the markets that are out there, and making like a committed effort to like intentionally point your craft in a specific direction and see if it pays off.
Yeah. And as far as writing advice too, I would always just say like it's dependent on goals, and not everyone has to have the same goals. But for me, there was a time where I was like, I need validation in certain places. And so to write things for that helped me proceed. And what I would say to anybody is, how do you allow yourself to proceed? Same thing I would say with fitness is you have to find something that you like, that you're going to, hook onto and keep going, because if you don't, the whole thing won't work. Right. So anyway, sorry, it's turned into the writer advice podcast for young people, but
it's at the end of the episode. People who want it have it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, I think it's because everyone here is a writer, and, a lot of us, someone explicitly or somewhat publishers. And so, anyways, we should probably get our asses out of this episode, guys. So I think I was the last to go with the hawking of wares. You know me, it's the same stuff. I have been really not productive for the last month. I've just been enjoying life and having a good time, and that's good. But the guilt is crawling in that I've got like a full month to get some things done and make some progress on some stuff, and a contracted project, as well as book 3 of the Maxis cycle. So I don't know, that stuff's coming, but I'm being a little bit I'm procrastinating a bit. So for right now, it will have to do that. The Maxis cycle is on Amazon exclusively at this point, which is stupid, and I should do something about that, and probably will before book 3 comes out. So check the show notes for everything that we have mentioned here today, guys. We will make an effort to make sure every possible link that was mentioned in the show features in the show notes. So yeah, the Maxis cycle, and of course, Cormac McArt, the Isle of Swords. No, not just Isle of Swords, from Heroic Signatures / Titan Publishing, came out about a week ago. I was privileged to write a brand new prose story of Robert E. Howard's version of Cormac McArt. Huge honor, and I had an immensely fun time writing it, and feedback has been very good. very kind and I think sincere. So that's good. So Cormac McArt Isle of Swords is available anywhere you can buy an ebook. It is there. Please do check it out. And if you dig it, please write a review. And please don't put a 2-star review. Those are not awesome.
Just move on if you don't like it, right?
Help me.
We're
Help me understand, man.
But how else would I signal my displeasure with the glut?
Yeah.
Oh.
yeah. I wonder. So I don't know, man. Just, yeah. Guys, there's so much good sword and sorcery out. Think of just this episode alone, all of the options you have to throw shillings and not. Okay? From the John Olfert corner of things, it's like he's giving it all away. This is goddamn communist sword and sorcery right here. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
My politics are
Socialist sword and sorcery. I wanted to put a can grenade into the middle of things at the end here, guys. No, I just. So, is there any final thoughts, guys?
Thanks for having us. This was great. See you around.
Yes. Thank you very much. It was great talking to you guys, and very, very excellent to hear your thoughts and your feelings on sword and sorcery.
You can't get away that easily because you need to get out the whetstone and sharpen your sword to ensure that your swords always remain sharp.